Good morning. Today I'm going to read about Drinking from the River of Light, The Life of Expression by Mark Nepo, number one New York Times best-selling author of the Book of Awakening. There are those who water the seed of light that no one sees. They are visionaries. And those who hold others, feeling the power of what they can become. They are teachers. And those who care enough to love the truth of what is until heaven is revealed here on earth, they are sages. Few are celebrities, few are rich. The best are often silent, deflecting attention, bowing to the gift. This is for them and their lineage, and the hope that we can do this for each other. The River of Light. Both Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo left a trail of unfinished art greater than anyone else in the modern history. Still, they are regarded as the two of the most talented artists who ever lived. They are extraordinary examples of how the journey of expression is more important than the final product. William Blake is another inspiring example. Toward the end of his life, Blake endeavored to illustrate Dante's Divine Comedy, the medieval epic poem that follows Dante's transformative journey through hell and purgatory into paradise. Blake created 102 watercolors, planning to engrave them all, but he only had time to begin 7. More than his immense effort to create art, Blake's innate devotion was to immerse himself deeply in the thickest currents of life. Though he couldn't finish engraving his illustrations, I imagine that, at some point, the life force Blake was so devoted to began engraving him. What more can any of us ask for but to be created by the very thing we feel compelled to create? This is where the holy work of effort leads, regardless of its trail. Recently, while in London, I stood before one of the Blake's illustrations. It was a sketch of Dante on his knees, drinking from the river of light, which descended from somewhere unseen like a waterfall. In this sketch, drawn 3 years before his death, Blake brought into being a portrait of himself. As I stood before it, over 200 years later, I knew in my heart it was a portrait of me as well, and of every writer and teacher who ever lived. For one, for when we express, when we let out what it is, regardless of how we are drinking from the river of light. And that act, that devotion, allows us to glimpse the fabric of the universe and the web of connection that holds life together. Glimpsing this, we are forever enlivened. When I write, I'm only trying to teach. Um, when I write, I'm only trying to reach the river of light that informs all life and to drink from it, so I can be conduit for life force in the world. When I teach, I'm only trying to bring those who are willing to the river of light, where we can drink and look at each other through awakened eyes. For I firmly believe that all forms of expression and education are meant to awaken the love that is possible in the world. And so, you don't have to work to find what is lasting and enlightened. You simply have to open your heart and let what's there flow. The rest will follow. Expression will find you. For water finds water, light finds light, feelings find meaning, and love finds love. The life of expression. As no one can live without inhaling and exhaling, no one can live without feeling and expressing. The life of expression is how the heart breathes and how our spirit grows in the life that carries it. As meditation is an ancient art that deepens our relationship to how we breathe, writing in an ancient art that deepens our relationship to all that matters. And just as the reward for practicing meditation is not what we'll become great breathers, but that we'll become clear vessels of life force, the reward for practicing a personal form of expression is not that we'll become great writers, but that such practice will help us wake closer to life. I want to affirm from the outset that this inquiry into the life of expression is not just about writing, but the unnameable process under all art forms, the process of perceiving and feeling our way into life. And more than whatever we might create, the value of inhibiting this timeless process resides in how it helps us come alive by staying in conversation with life. So, while the examples and the stories from different fields of creativity help to reveal this process, this book is not just for writers and artists, but for anyone intent on staying close to the pulse of life. As one form of expression, writing, whatever form it takes, poetry, story, memoir, or reflection, is a personal and necessary conversation with the universe. And while there are many outstanding books that focus on craft and language, this book focuses on the irrepressible aspects of expression, how the forces of life enter us and leave us, and what they do to us on their way through. The exercises throughout are intended to introduce you to the skills of vision, perception, feeling, and articulation, which are the veins and arteries by which spirit moves between us and the world. Whether we consider ourselves artists or not, we perceive and express as a way to extract what is essential to live. Retrieving this book has allowed me to shape and share a lifetime of inquiry about the life of expression. It has given me the chance to explore the art and practice of writing as a means to unfold our spiritual growth. The book began as a popular 2-day intensive workshop offered at the 2013 and 2014 Sounds True Wake Up Festivals. Since then, I have evolved that workshop into this book, which focuses on how bearing witness to the truth of living reveals the mysteries of life. As the journey unfolds, you will be invited to explore the paradox of effort and grace and to personalize the life force that comes through the creative process. As you become more familiar with your own voice, you will be introduced to the expressive work of being. The arc of the book explores how we are constantly being shaped by life into finer instruments of care and expression. The deeper we go, the more attuned we become, and the more we join with everything around us. Whether your writing is published or not, whether your music is recorded or not, whether your art is in a gallery or not, whether your garden is given a prize or not, or your cooking is featured in the local newspaper or not. Inhibiting a personal life of expression in its own reward by which we strengthen our connections and find our way. The journey of the book is designed to help you personalize the way you take in life in all its varied mystery. Part 1, Basic Human Truths, describes the ongoing relationship between the forces of life and our human nature. Part 2, Being Shaped by the Life, shows how these forces of life shape us, refining how we take an experience and how we turn what we experience into acts of care and expression. Part 3, The Deeper We Go, details how we can inhibit a lifelong practice of listening, expressing, and creating. And part 4, Becoming One With, examines the rhythms of wakefulness and sensitivity that open up before us as we get closer and closer to life. Whether you consider yourself an artist or not, the hope, the goal for you and me is to wake up to life through our enlivened practice of expression. I have also discovered that this book is not meant to be read all at once. In writing this book and in reading it, I have found that vast terrains open if you give yourself time with each story, metaphor, and exercise. Therefore, I invite you to enter this book as you would train traveling across Europe. You can take the express, or you can realize that your experience of Europe is really in the shops, stops you make along the way. I invite you to read and consider, then stop and explore the stories and exercises while living your life. For this book is meant to be experienced and journeyed with. When you find yourself speeding up, I encourage you to slow down and live where you are more fully by practicing your own sense of expression with each chapter. When I speak of poetry, I mean more than the careful arrangements of language on a page. Rather, I mean the authentic life of expression that arises from us when we touch into the depth of life. As John F. Kennedy understood, this serum from underneath our trouble restores us when we've lost our way. When power leads us towards arrogance, poetry reminds us of our limitations. When power narrows the areas of our concern, poetry reminds us of the richness of our existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses, for art establishes the basic human truths which must serve as the touchstone of our judgment. Over the years, I have come upon many basic human truths by way of metaphors and stories. They are quite teachers that have come to me through listening, writing, and reading. I have tried to sit at their feet and work with them. I assemble many of them here to unfold what I have learned, and in many cases, to pursue what I have yet to learn and to work with them further. While each at time preoccupied my attention, I see now that they point to one essential theme: the recurrence of images that educate the heart. For authentic, truthful expression helps us make the journey from our head to our heart. When we can surface without masks and stay in conversation with life, these essential expressions arrive with their wisdom. In this way, I retrieve poems more than create them. They become my guides. They become my inner curriculum. By listening to them, I learn and grow. And when I listen, I'm drawn to what I need to learn. This way of learning is available to all of us as we meet and learn from the moments of our lives. And so, I invite you to perceive and express your way through this book, to write your way through the topics and the stories by way of a journal. To help with this process, I offer invitations at the end of each chapter, which include prompts to write and to be in conversation with a friend or a loved one. For conversation, the art and the practice of truly listening to ourselves and each other is a restorative mode of reflection. In a sense, conversation is an agile and ever present meaning of healing that is always very near. If you're not in a place of converse with another, you can have the conversation with yourself, in your journal, on a walk, or at a cafe. After all these years, I had realized that when fully present, what matters moves through us the way air moves through an open window. And being such a window is growthful for anyone. For when we practice our own authentic, open form of expression, we all become artists. For any art form or hands on endeavor devoted to its earnest will reveal the same dynamic center at the heart of all expression. However, we are drawn into it. The deeper dimension of the creative, expressive process will animate our soul. When moved to drink from river of light, we start to glow. As the sculptor Henry Moore affirmed, to be an artist is to believe in life. This book is intended to enliven your belief in life. My hope is that this journey will touch into the miraculous depth of being that is always just below whatever you carry, and that you'll return to your life having discovered and deepened a very personal form of expression that you can walk with in your days. Part 1: Basic Human Truths. The fundamental truth of being human is that we are incredibly sensitive creatures whose joy and pain are registered through that unique sensitivity. This sensitivity allows us the gift of seeing and perceiving. This sensitivity allows us to make sense of being alive. Unlike any other form of life, being human allows us to fit things together or break things apart. Inhibiting the art of expressing ourselves is what lets us fit things together rather than break things apart. The art of expressing ourselves, what we experience, what we feel, what we think, and what we imagine exist within us and beyond us, is a form of inner breathing. And so, we each must learn how to do this, or we will cease to exist. If you stop breathing, you will die. If you stop expressing, you may still walk around and buy groceries and pay the bills, but you will not be alive. This lifelong process of weaving that enters us with what rises within us is the necessary art by which we lift the veils between us and keep the world together. As life marks us up, we breathe, we keep playing the chord in our heart, which echoes the inner experience of truth. We discover, one experience at a time, that a life well lived is well expressed. When most vibrant and vulnerable, we live as a tuning fork, releasing the one conversation that never ends, the conversation of listening, expressing, and creating life. This part of the book describes the ongoing relationship between the forces of life and our human nature and the risks necessary to be fully present to whatever comes our way. Why write? Any discovery we make about ourselves or the meaning of life is the coming to conscious recognition of something which we really knew all the time, but because we were unwilling or unable to formulate it correctly, we did not know we knew. W. H. Auden. The thread. 34 years ago, in my mid 30s, I was working hard at becoming a good poet when I was thrust into my journey with cancer. The torque of that experience pulled me from all my goals and routines and aspirations. I was left in the raw, uncertain simplicity of being alive and trying by any means possible to stay alive. I had few native gifts to help me through. The one closest to my heart was the aliveness of expression that lived below my want to be a poet. And so I began to journal daily about my deepest fears, feelings, pains, and dreams, about the prospects of living and dying. I didn't think of it as writing or as material. More, I was climbing a rope of honest expression, day by day into tomorrow. It became a muscular and tender, honest space in which I began to access my own inner healing. This was my first in depth experience of writing as a spiritual practice. Years later, I read William Stafford's poem, The Way It Is, which I share here. There's a thread you follow, it goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen, people get hurt or die, and you suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. To discover the thread that goes through everything is the main reason to listen, express, and write. Years after this, I learned about the Buddhist myths of Indra's net, which encircles the earth. At very knot in the net is a jewel in which you can see all the other jewels and the entire net reflected. This is a metaphor for a part in a living universe. For each soul is such a jewel, which, when clear, will reveal all of the other souls in the existence as well as the net of being that connects us. I began to understand that listening, expressing, and writing are the means by which we stay clear, the inner practices by which we realize a connection to other souls and a living universe. So, to discover the thread that goes through everything is not only how we survive the tumble through life, it is also the way we inhibit our connections. In truth, when we listen and express or write, we wipe our jewel clean and sustain the threads that hold the world together. To discover the thread that goes through everything in the main reason to listen, express, and write. Thank you.